Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Outer Range. Almost forgot the name of the show. Season 2, Episode 6. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I want to start off with the Joy side of things. Obviously, she ended up informing Martha about a lot of stuff, and so Martha knows everything, which, like I said at the time, she'd be a little more willing and believing, especially with the photo and everything, and it's like, yeah, funny enough, the Shelton dude that basically gave us our house, I killed his ancestor for trying to assault a young Shoshone woman and trying to kill me. So that's got to be something a little weird coming back to where it's just like, oh yeah, like some of seeing where history has been of, oh yeah, this is the, like, I've seen the, like, once again, it's got to be weird living in the house of a guy that you're like, I know your ancestor. Like, I could have thought he was a crappy person. I could just assumed. I know firsthand he was a crappy person. In fact, I put a bullet in his head. You know, that's kind of wild. I mean, not unless it's a situation of, like, this ain't anything to do with his family. It's just, it uses his name because, I mean, it didn't seem like he had any kids, but maybe he did. Because he did have a farm and stuff, because he was offering, like, land or something like that to Levi and him. Whatever the case may be. So Joy's trying to readjust. Even Martha's like, you kind of going back to work is a little much, but I think Joy doesn't like the quiet. It's just, it's too much, and she's just like, you know, Martha, be patient with me. It's a lot, and she's just trying to find her way back. And she ended up eventually going to see Royal, but obviously him and Cecilia were out of the house at the time, which we'll get to all that later. But she ended up passing out because she started hearing this ringing, and you cut to Perry experiencing the same thing. And it turns out we learned from Royal, apparently that's a sign that the hole is closing. He's like, yeah, the moment like I first got here and the hole closed, like I would hear that. And maybe we got some of that in season 1 as well, and I just don't remember it. But yeah, like once again, a lot of people getting introduced to that element. So, and the fact is she passed out for like an hour. I thought she only passed out for half an hour. She's like, no, I passed out for an hour. They were only trying to contact me at the station for half an hour. So she wakes up and she's calling Royal later on, like, yeah, like, can I talk to you about this? Can we talk tomorrow? He's like, yeah, me and Cecile are going to go out of town. And she's like, are you going to be? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. You're like, yo, she is going through it. And even Cecilia's like, is she going to be okay? He's like, no, she's far from it. She has Martha to talk to, but it's like, yeah, there's only so much you can talk. Like, it's like someone going to war, you know? Like, there is trauma in that where it's like, I mean, in a lot of ways she is. She's like a vet coming back from war where I'm like, I can't readjust to normal life. Because who knows if it's good or bad. The fact is that Royal was so young when he came to when he left, when he went into the hole, like he was so young that it wasn't too much of an adjustment period. You know, his life then versus what he had to live now. Like, whereas like, she's kind of got like whiplash because it's like, right, I've lived my life at present time. I've had my struggles. I have my circumstances. I went to the 1880s. I lived there for 4 years, went through everything, saw like kind of just like the shitty side of humanity, came back, and it's just kind of like there's a breath of fresh air of like, oh my God, I'm back with my family, but you're just not, like, it's like a soldier with PTSD, like nothing feels right anymore. Like you don't feel right because the benefit of, yes, I've changed has kind of also been, yeah, I changed, and it's just I've been through some stuff, and I can't literally talk to anyone about it. I have to lie to my colleagues about what happened to me just to keep this on a hush and hush, because if I tell the truth, no one's going to believe me. Luckily, Martha believes me, but it's still a thing of, even though you have her to talk to, Royal is the only person that can ever truly understand. And obviously Perry, but obviously Perry hasn't come back to present day, so there's not too many people you can actually talk to who can really truly understand. It's a very, very unique experience that only a small number of people have kind of gone through. So, and just seeing her kind of break down, like after hanging up on the phone with Royal, just like her just on the floor, just crawled up like that. You're just like, poor Joy, like that sucks. That sucks so bad, like that you're going through that, and you feel it's such once again, she has Martha, but you know that's going to probably cause more harm in the long run because she's going to probably feel like, yeah, I'm telling Martha stuff, but I can't tell her everything. I can't really talk to her. The only person I can talk to is Royal, you know? And it's like, yeah, Royal's kind of going through his own thing this episode too, so that's actually, the Joy side of things is just heartbreaking to look at, and just see, like I said, her just trying to adjust and everything, so we have that. We also pick up with the Amy stuff. I need to start at the beginning of the episode because I love that opening of like, yeah, they said God made Earth in 6 days, but it's like, how do they know that? Like, our understanding of time is based off of words we just made up. Like, those words didn't exist before. Like, how can we really describe time we can't, because the words we use to describe are just words we made up just to be like, oh, like, to represent the passage of time. And it's like, it's so interesting because it's like, even the conversation of God had to break time to make man. And he's like, yeah, like, some of us think like maybe God put time back, but maybe he didn't. Maybe he left it here for us to figure out, to see, like, whether we'll do anything foolish with it, or whether we are like that our view in our minds are so small that we don't see the greater scale. Like, we are so busy thinking we see the big picture when in actuality we don't. We have such a small view of what time is and everything. It's like, yeah, it's kind of getting that peek into something grander than you, because it's like, yeah, like, who actually controls time? Is it like Chronos, or is it someone else? So it was just an interesting voiceover monologue at the beginning of the episode. And like, Cecilia and Royal came back and Autumn was going through it, writing everything over the walls, and she's like, right, Lewis was there when I went with my mom in the night of rodeo, and she's like, Grandpa, you and I, what we did, like, our relationship, this moment, it's something beautiful. And then she passed out for a couple hours, and it's just like, yo, she's going through it. And then we also got this interesting reveal where what Autumn was experiencing wasn't just for Autumn. It was also Amy who was experiencing it, because we cut to her mom sitting in a chair and was like, why is she looking kind of weird? And then we get the flashback of, oh, she was there when Amy was going through it. So I was like, whoa. Because at first I was like, wait, is this a paradoxical thing? But I'm like, but why is that happening now? Like, they coexisted in the same time for a while now, and there's never been anything. But I'm like, this is the first time Autumn's taking the mineral. So I'm like, could it be that because this is our first time having someone take the mineral while another version of themselves is also coexisting in that same time? So I'm like, is that what made that, like, that connection there? But then later on, we see you don't even have to be in the same time. Like, I'm jumping ahead, but the Wayne situation, you don't even have to be in the same time frame for the mineral to do that, because he connected to himself in the past. I was like, that's interesting. Because I think it's a one-way thing. Yes, they connect, but I don't think young Wayne realized he was connecting with old Wayne, and Amy doesn't remember. Like, she's like, yeah, I had a nightmare, but I'm sure she doesn't quite remember anything. So, because Autumn still, because it makes, oh God, there's a lot. Because I'm curious, because what Wayne experienced and what Autumn experienced, it's so interesting seeing these two different approaches to that experience. Because once again, everyone else has just kind of like, maybe that connection is always there. So like, anytime you're seeing future stuff, you are connecting with your future self, living that event, but then you're just like, that connection is kind of, maybe it's never severed, maybe it's there for a while, but like, as we see with Autumn, she stays connected to Amy. Like, I don't know if that's her mind trying to process everything, because like, it seems like she's connecting with the Amy's inside of herself, because it's like, I guess she's kind of accessing all of her memories as Amy. It's like, oh, here I am as a teenager, or here's me as a kid, like, or is that supposed to imply like, no, she's connecting with the versions of herself across time? Like, oh, this is an Amy at a certain point in my history, and this is an Autumn at a certain point in my, another Amy as a teenager. Like, they're connecting in that regard, or how much of that's just purely in Autumn's head from kind of going a little insane from all of this? My point is, it seems like there might still be like that connection to ourselves across time is still there, and that's why I'm curious, like, is Wayne going to experience that too? Or is it specifically a rebound from the fact it's kind of like a backlash, a blowback kind of from Amy being in the same time as Autumn, whereas like Wayne won't suffer the ramifications in that capacity because both versions of him are in two different time periods. Once again, the timey-wiminess. That's what I love about time travel, because I'm like, ooh, the nitty-gritty of it is what I'm always so interested in, because I'm like, I always want to know, what are the time travel boundaries and rules? And I know some people kind of hate that about time travel, because they feel like some people end up breaking their own time travel rules. Even if they do that, I'm fine with that, because I'm always curious to see like how you go about it and stuff like that. But I love timey-wimey stuff, and I'm always trying to understand like the minutia of details of like, okay, so if this means this, does that mean this? if A, B, and C means this, does X, Y, and Z mean that? That's continues to be the thing. And it's not me ranting or harping on it. I just find it so fascinating. I like to try and understand it. And so that's what I'm just doing. I'm just like letting you into my thought process on understanding all of this. But yeah, like Autumn's going through it, kind of seeming a little crazy, but like, yeah, the younger version of herself being like, yo, don't do this. Like, why you want to hurt me? Which she's like, I would never hurt you. And then the teenage Autumn's kind of like, yo, this is what needs to happen. Because we are talking about, because the Amy that's there is who she was before everything. Probably like, this is the Amy that was with her mom, with her grandparents. The teenage Amy is the one that was probably like, oh, it's definitely the one after she was taken, the one that basically was there, that's basically Autumn right there. That's not Amy anymore, that's Autumn. So that's why she's more on Autumn's side, because like, this is who I was before. So it's like, this is these two, the Autumn present day and the Autumn there as a teenager, represent Amy's journey, where it's like Amy over there is like, no, this is my innocence. This is before I was shifted and turned into Autumn by my experiences and the circumstances. Because there's this interesting conversation of like, oh, Royal, how did you know that? He's like, yeah, I just had a feeling, I just did. And it's like, how is she seeing all that stuff? It's like, well, he's like, yeah, she probably got some of that material. And it's like, oh, did you see anything when you touched it? He's like, a little bit, but not to the extent that, to be fair, she like once again, she must have hit the rest of that. She must have like gobbled it up or something. Because last episode I kept being like, oh, I kept making the booger sugar reference. But it's like, no, she probably didn't sniff it. She just downed the rest of it. And maybe like taking too much of a hit at once. Like a little dab here and there every once in a while is one thing. I mean, to be fair, we saw Luke kind of blitzed out of his mind getting high off the little bit he was doing at a time. But like, if she probably swallowed a lot at a time, like it probably sends your system into overdrive. Because you're probably not supposed to be able to tap into that much like raw time without it like having without it. I mean, it's kind of like a refined version of time. It's not like you're tapping into raw time like on some Loki season 2 type of shit, But either way, Cecilia's coming from the perspective of, well, maybe she can tell us where Amy is, which she later on says, like, well, I don't know where Amy is. It's like, what she does, as we find out later on, she's just not saying anything, which even Royal's like, she literally tried to kill me on some, like, destiny bullshit. Like, she's not going to tell us, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of, I need to make sure I go back in time. I gotta throw me in the pit so that I eventually grow up and become this version of myself, so that the future I see eventually comes. Because we, at the time, never, like, other than the Amy stuff in the mirror near the end of last episode, or at the end of last episode. No, it was near the end of last episode. I'm trying to remember if this Royal and Cecilia scene happened last, or was it? Because I know they happened concurrently, but I don't remember if the last thing you see in the episode was like Cecilia and Royal at the hole, or was it Amy was like the last shot of the episode. It might have been Cecilia and Royal, but it's kind of a moot point. We never actually got to see what she saw. We still kind of haven't. We saw what Luke saw, and that's a lot of what Amy's. So it's once again, everything's kind of like filling in to some extent, because it's like, okay, so Luke ended up seeing the which, I mean, he went over to the hole and pretty much dunked his head into it like it was water, and saw the cult that they started, the yellow and everything. So I'm like, oh, okay, so you're a part of that. And he's always wanted to be a part of something that matters, and it's like, Amy is a part of something grand on such a cosmic level, and to be a part of something like that, like, he's super excited about it. So it's like, right, this is something bigger than my family, because he talks to his dad and he's like, yo, do you know what was in the West Pasture before, like, you even made that offer to Royal and them? It's like, yeah, I did. He's like, why didn't you ever tell any of us? He's like, because I didn't think you or your brothers were ready to fully comprehend what the hell is over there in that pasture. So, but either way, we see, like, Autumn was already an oddball. Once again, her considering her circumstances is understandable, but she's even more off a rocker. And running into Maria, who's back working at the bank, because she's like, I technically never quit because I just did sick days, but it's like, she's adamant about and ready to leave, but it's also like, right, we were so ready to leave, but if it wasn't literally for a horde of bison that came out of the ground, which, I mean, they don't know about this, but that was a timey-wimey thing that kind of like screwed over their leaving. Amy says this line where she's like, Rhett is going to leave you, so you need to leave him before you get left behind, which I thought was so interesting. And it's just like, I guess on some level, was her warning to Maria a act of kindness? What are the circumstances? What are the circumstances under which Rhett is saying like, right, I have to leave you? I guess it has to be a situation of, because my assumption is just going to be like Maria's going to leave on her own. Rhett's going to have to stay behind because there's just too much with everything going on with his family that he can't leave. Like, you know, they were on their way leaving, but it's like, yeah, everything happens for a reason. And the Bison sniped you for a reason to be here because you need to be here for what's all about to go down, I guess. Maybe that's what that is. I don't know. Because whatever, once again, we don't even know if how much of the future Autumn saw, but she saw enough to see how things play out because, I mean, she dabbled in that material, the minerals. I said materials, minerals. But I'm like, I wonder does the Abbott family have a stronger connection to it compared to anyone else? Like, I mean, so far it doesn't seem like anyone has necessarily a stronger connection to it. Because once again, it's not like the land is like, or the time or the whole or anything. It's not royals, it's just there, just, you know, but it's there for a reason, and it's around and connected to this family where everything is connected, as Autumn was saying. That was interesting because she had gone to the bank to like check out what was in her account. Now I don't know if that's a thing of her account isn't what she thought it was, or maybe like her family had like taken money out of her account, so she doesn't have the capital she needs to start the venture of her little yellow shirt cult. I don't know if that's what that was, because she looked frustrated when she saw like either the account was completely empty, or like I said, it just maybe it was on the verge of being empty, or just nowhere near the amount of money it was at one point in time. So maybe that's kind of an indicator of like maybe her mom and sister took it back. I have no idea. She definitely left the bank frustrated, so there's that. She confides in Luke about like, right, we are like Billy, yes, he saw me in his vision. I didn't see him in mine, meaning he was in my past, and it was all, once again, everything's meant to lead me to where I'm supposed to be. So I got close to Billy, like, yes, he's supposed to lead me to where I'm supposed to go, but you, Luke, you're my future, you're my protector. And he's like, yeah, that's what I saw too, yada, yada. Like, once again, he wants to feel important. He wants to be important to somebody. The love he's not getting from his father, he's searching for it for somewhere else, someone to, he needs that strong figure in his life, and it's like, it wasn't his dad, and he sees that, and like, he's conflating like this love and affection like for Autumn with just like the not having that guiding hand in his life. And it's just like, once again, she's just kind of not occupying the same space, but trying to, the hole that's in his, the void that's in his heart because of his father, she's filling that to some extent. So, which eventually leads to the clash between Billy and Luke, because Billy's like, no, I'm the one that's going to help out Autumn, you stay away from her. But he's like, oh no, I actually gave her the minerals and she's already taken it. It's like, yeah, like, you should eat your food, brother, I love you, and just kind of bounces. But later on he's like, nah. And he told this interesting story later on when he's like made a story of like, right, I was being bullied by a kid. You stood up and told the kid like, hey, if you want to get to Billy, you have to get through me. And the guy proceeded to beat the shit out of you until Trevor came and started beating the ever-living shit out of him. And it's like, right. And I love Billy's like, right, in this case, I'll be you and you'll be that Sam dude as I fight you. Because it's like, either you just bow out or we're going to have to get nasty with this. And they tussle. And the end result ends up being kind of what you thought it would be, simply because, well, Luke is in Autumn's future. Sadly, he isn't. So, yeah, it seems like in that moment, he killed his brother, which is interesting because, like, the same thing he was threatening to kill his brother with when his brother was unconscious, he was going to, like, stab him with. It was like it was like an iron rod or something. I don't know what it was exactly. I don't think it was the exact, because it was like a iron poker last time he was going to stab his brother with. I don't think it was the same thing, but it'd be poetic if it was. I'm like, oh, you were threatening to kill your brother before. You're kind of defending yourself a little bit. Yes, you both were going back and forth. But yeah, you ended up killing him. I love, like, at first you're kind of like, oh, like, it seemed like not only did like he get whacked in the face, he also hit his head like on a table or something. But he got up and was like, oh, everything's fine. And then he turns his head and then the blood starts trickling down. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Took a little. we're pausing on the blood for dramatic effect of like, oh, he seems fine. I was like, because I expected his face to be jacked up or something, but it looked like he was absolutely fine until he like completely turns around and then the blood starts pouring and then he hits the ground. So interesting. After everything you went through, like Royal almost semi-killing you just for who was the person that ended up killing you in the end? Your brother. To be fair, this is also on your dad because he kind of pitted you against each other, especially like making Luke feel inferior to his brothers in every single way. So there's a lot there. So, but I guess it's also supposed to, I'm sure you could look at it as very, despite there being 3 siblings, I'm sure you could still look at it as biblical Cain and Abel type of shit. But yeah, he doesn't tell anybody about that. I don't know what he did with Billy's body, if he just left it there or what. Because he's not too concerned about his dad. It's like, right, me and Autumn are about to go do something more important. So maybe he hid Billy's body. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The last time we kind of tie the last connection to that is like, I think the last shot of the episode, which is Wayne like getting a feeling like something's wrong with Billy. Like it must have been when he tapped into like the time when he like tasted the minerals, he got a vision of something related to Billy, and maybe that's why he decided out of nowhere, outside of the bar, being like, Billy, and rushes over. So we'll see what the conclusion to that is, but it seems pretty sure enough that Billy's dead, once again, considering he's not in Autumn's future. So, but it might be a thing of like, he might be like brain dead. It might be a thing of he's technically alive, but it might be like he might be in a vegetative state, like he might be like brain dead type of situation from the trauma, the hemorrhaging to his brain or something like that might be the case from the blunt force trauma. We'll have to wait and see, like I said. But yeah, Autumn, like I brought up before, is dead set on kidnapping her younger version of herself, throwing her in a hole just so the cycle can play itself out and Autumn can basically go down the path she's meant to. Because once again, it is this thing of how much is set in stone, how much is always meant to happen, how much of this is all happening for the first time because how much just changed, or is it always the Ouroboros of everything happens for a reason because it's always meant to happen, of she's always meant to be here so she can toss her younger self down the hole, her and Luke, so that Amy will eventually grow up into Autumn and become the person she's meant to in the future. Like, does Joy always go back in time, and is Joy the reason why? Not directly, but it's just like, right, Royal, like I kept bringing it up last episode, how much of that is, no, was a hunting accident, but time changed because of Joy, and now you end up killing your dad. But then it's like, well, you didn't remember that, but you protected yourself with that by, like that was your mind as like a kid trying to process and compartmentalize and deal with that, along with like traveling through time. But then once again, what about the Perry of it all? It doesn't seem like you remember that, but maybe you do. Because you would think Cecilia would remember, wait, did I meet someone that looked a lot like Perry? Like I said, maybe not till he comes back in time. Does time like fill in that gap and they start remembering? Or once again, we got that with Joy, but we haven't gotten that with Perry yet, which is interesting. Considering both Joy, that Perry has met not just Royal, he's also met Cecilia too. He's interacted with people who would remember him, because it's not like Wayne didn't realize where Perry was until he tapped into the mineral, used the mineral, and then tapped into his past self and was like, holy shit, Perry is time traveling. So, which, hey, Perry's also going through it, because I love that thing where like, hey, it's funny enough, history, once again repeating, where Cecilia, to get back the farm, was like, hey, I need you to apologize, Royal, to Wayne. Well, Wayne kind of had Cecilia facilitate a similar thing in the past to get him to get Perry to apologize, or Ben to apologize. He's like, I'm sorry you were locking lips. And it's like, oh, she was like, he's like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And just like, I love that, like, you can see Royal laughing in the background, and it's just like, and both of them kind of smiling, and Perry being such a dick, he kind of going both sides of Cecilia being like, oh, is that all you got? And it's like, those two, like father, like son, and it's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna like go get you a drink, kind of as like a reward for breaking Wayne's nose. Good job. And then also, that's, it seems like they're on good terms, but that's kind of cut short when Ben, well, I keep doing it, sorry. Well, Perry catches Royal making out with Cecilia's sister, which is like, cool. It's like, fuck you, dude. You know you're my dad and you're supposed to be with Cecilia. Like, what the hell are you doing? And so it's like, you can't stop people from, like, living their lives. I mean, it all works out in the end, but once again, we potentially could Marty McFly himself out of existence, maybe. So I understand that. And lo and behold, he ends up going to the bar to get drunk and runs into Wayne, who's also, interestingly enough, at that bar present day trying to get drunk. So it ends up being a 3v1, and Perry was handling his own, but obviously it's still 3 dudes against him, and he starts getting curb stomped, and then luckily Royal shows up, shoots a guy in the leg, and it's like, oh, because you shot someone, Royal, like, you're done. We're going to take that land from you, you know, and for Royal, it's like, right, you try and take that land from me, you will leave this earth. It's like, ooh, and kind of takes off with him. So he takes Perry to the hole. Perry throws in his wedding ring because it's like, right, I've been latching on to someone. Maybe that's also why he was so rubbed the wrong way, because it's like, right, I was looking for Rebecca, and he's just kind of like, maybe that's what the Royal and Cecilia's sister thing, like why it bothered him so much. Maybe it kind of got him thinking about that. But it's like, right, she left not only my daughter and me, she left without telling us the reason why, and I came looking for her. I abandoned my daughter, and it's like, right, she had a list when she was younger. She could say dad, but when she couldn't say, she'd say grandpa, you know? And it's like, are you going to go back? And for Perry, it's just kind of very much like Royal, of like, you want to do the right thing, you just don't always know what the right thing is. Which is so interesting because that kind of got thrown against Royal this episode, because Rhett ended up running into Nia, who's trying to say like, oh, so do you know what's, you know, on your land? I think you do. Your dad, he's someone stuck in time. Is like, you have no idea. He's a man out of time in a lot of ways. And she's like, right, he won't know what to do, won't know what the right thing to do is. And it's like, oh, you want me to turn against my dad? She's like, no, I want you to be the best son possible. You know, it's just like, well, we know to some extent that there is a future where it's like, well, we know Royal gets shot and dies in Cecilia's arms. We saw the future he saw with all the machinery and the cold and everything. So everyone kind of being shocked to see him. Because it was, God. Wasn't it Luke that tried to shoot him initially? Back then, I don't remember. Like I said, it's been so long, I don't remember now. The person that like opened fire on him initially, like there was like soldiers or whatever coming to rush to get him. But I want to say like wasn't the first person to really kind of pop off and try and shoot him was Luke. Because like Wayne wasn't there, so I'm like, Wayne might already be dead by that point in time, maybe? I don't know. Maybe Royal would have gotten to him. I have no idea. So we'll see what Perry does, because I think Perry might be the only one that could potentially stop Autumn. Because like if he shows up just before Autumn throws Amy into the like hole, it's like, whoa, I can stop you. But it's also like, you know, will that end with Autumn's death type of situation? I don't know. How much is, once again, set in stone, and how much can things change, and how much is this is how it always will be and how it always was meant to be. Oh, speaking of the farm stuff, I did kind of completely like move over that, where things haven't gone the way Wayne wanted them to, because the pastor actually had to change a heart because of what Autumn said last episode. So he reached out to a different farmer who has a connection to the Abbotts. It's like, right, Cecilia's mom and dad were always good to him, so he ended up paying the $500,000. So now they're going to be able to keep their farm. There's still the Perry issue in itself, but they were able to pay the bells, so that's all kind of okay for now. Doesn't completely resolve everything, but you know. So Wayne was not too happy about that situation. So I wasn't expecting the pastor to show up in that capacity, but it's like, yeah, I guess he kind of did some self-reflection last episode. I don't know. Either way, we'll see where things kind of go from there. So along with that, we also had the situation of Amy and not Amy. Well, it's tied to Amy. Cecilia and Royal going to visit Lewis, and they jacked him up. It's like drew him out so that Cecilia could hit his leg or kneecap, have him fall down the stairs, and she continuously hitting him with that big wrench or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, it turns out you were there that night at the rodeo. You lied to us. It's like, okay, she's going to a women's shelter is where Rebecca is, because her cousin works there. So, I mean, they only got that information after Royal finally had to put a gun to Lewis's head. You know, it's like, right, well, you come back and you find out you lied, we're going to have big problems. So now they're on their way to this woman's shelter to, you know, I get, they even said later on, it's like, oh, it's going to be weird running into Rebecca again, after all these years. So that's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see where how that plays out. There's just so much about where this is all going to go, especially considering the next episode is the season finale. So how this all comes to an end, how it wraps up. I won't even say like the title of the next episode is like what was it, like the loss of innocence or something like that? The end of innocence or something like, I think something like that, which ties into Amy, I think. So we'll have to wait to see how this all plays out and what the end result will be. I don't see this having a happy ending. There's so many different ways of like I said, I get the feeling like it's all going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy of Amy's going to end up going through the hole, but then it's like, does Autumn die type of thing? But if that's the thing, if Autumn dies, what does that say about Amy? Hell, even Rhett had the whole quote, because they talked to him about it. It's like, how do you know, what does that mean for Amy? And Rhett's like, Roy was like, I have no idea, you know? So, because it would mean that, right, Amy would go through her entire life, come back here just to die. Again, that will always end up being her fate. Not unless they kill Autumn, yet keep Amy here. But that would also be the thing of, we'd also have to, well, could you break the cycle? But once again, can this cycle even be broken? I get the feeling like it's going to have a tragic ending. Especially because it'd be very sadly poetic, considering like, well, I guess it's almost the same thing with Billy. Like, whereas Billy like survived last season just to die. Once again, that depends on if he's like dead or just kind of in a like I said, vegetative state, which is kind of similar to being, you know, like brain dead type of situation. And would, like, you know, Royal saved Autumn in the season 1 finale. So what if he ends up not saving her, in fact kills her this time? Very much probably in a similar fashion of how he killed his dad to save Joy. It seems like there's a lot of parallels that could be made, so it could all be foreshadowing something like that. We'll ultimately have to wait to see. Like I said, I think Perry's return could be a deciding factor in some of this, whether it's Amy, whether it's Autumn herself, you know, so we'll have to wait and see. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.